Now, going back to our leading story, the 2023 matric class has achieved a pass rate of 82.9% and improvement of 2.8% from 2022. This officially marks the end of their high school career and the beginning of the tertiary education journey. Joining us now to analyze all this is Naptosa Executive Director Basil Manuel and Sadtu Media Officer Nomusa Cembi, who join us via video link. Thank you to both of you for joining us. Basil, let's just start with your reaction. 82.9%, an increase of over 2% in the matric results. What do you make of that?
Good evening, and thanks for having me, and good evening to Nomusa as well. Masa, for Naptosa, it says a couple of things. Number one, that the system has settled down. A lot of work has been done in terms of trying to mitigate the problems that had come with COVID-19, and particularly this cohort that was in grade 10 or in grade 9 during that time. And they were the last group to come back to school. But it's also a credible increase. If we suddenly had a 10% increase, it would really, alarm bells would ring. At this point, increases in performance are small, they're incremental, and they show themselves in various ways. And we see how there's an improvement in the quality of passes. We've seen that. There's also certain provinces, particularly those provinces that were lagging behind, have started improving. And those are the things we look out for. So we are pleased with the result, and we are pleased with the efforts that have been put in to change the trajectory of results, particularly because these learners were the ones that were going to battle the most if we didn't help them as much as we did.
And as you're saying, with the system having settled down, we also have to give thanks to the teachers. Naptosa has said, you know, this would not have been achieved without teachers who spent a lot of their own time also providing extra classes and also trying to ensure that these matric results increase. And I guess, Nomusa, for you from Sadtu, that would also be a key element to mention and highlight, that we shouldn't forget the teachers who've put in such incredible work.
Good evening, Master. Good evening to Basil as well. Yes, my sentiments would almost be the same as Basil's. Yes, we commend the teachers for the work that they've put to ensure that we have such a good path. There were support programs which involved study camps, and teachers sacrificed their times, their holidays, their mornings, their evenings to make sure that this class does pass. So, and what we also commend a lot is that we saw we are seeing rural provinces, largely rural provinces, making huge improvements in this result. Although some may be at the bottom of the rank, but we see that they are they are mainly in their 80s. Only a few provinces are in the 70s, and we are very heartened with this, because most of them are rural provinces. And also the issue of quality passes. We've seen quality passes with this result, and also these largely predominantly rural provinces have made inroads in achieving quality passes. KwaZulu-Natal is the province that got most bachelor passes, and we commend that, because it changes that before we used to get urban provinces and schools that were mainly in quintiles 4 and 5 getting quality passes. But if you look overall, schools in lower quintiles or no fee paying schools did quite well this time.
And it is quite commendable that you do mention that, Nomusa, about the rural schools and township schools and the no-pay schools. But also what we do know is that these schools remain schools that are suffering from severe overcrowding, from a lack of infrastructure, poor infrastructure, and also bad resources as well, not enough, poor resources. And yet these students are somehow able to rise above these challenges. But the reality is, Nomusa, that shouldn't be the case. They should be in schools that are resourced and they have the facilities that they need to be able to study well and pass well.
Yes, I agree. It shouldn't be the case. These good quality passes came at a cost, because teachers had to dig within themselves, deep within themselves, to make sure that they teach these learners. They and learners had to dig deep within themselves to subject themselves to those evening, weekends, holiday classes, to make sure that we get this pass. We in the future would like to see rural township schools also making it without having to go through such.
Now, before the break, Basil, Nomusa was talking about quality passes and at the cost that they came at, What would you say some of these costs were that these quality passes came at?
Marcel, we must understand that we went into this with our eyes opened, and our teachers knew that it's going to be a tough time. And the digging deep that Nomusa refers to, we are worried about the mental health of our teachers. With the pressure you are under with overcrowded classrooms and with a long day and weekends, our teachers have hardly had a break. All because we are trying to catch up, all because people are pushing results, and we know that this was because of the impact of a variety of things, including COVID-19. Now, this is unsustainable in the long run. And Nomusa is absolutely correct. We would like to see this settling down. We would like to see even the learners having more of the breaks, etc. It is unsustainable for them too, because they reach university now, or the colleges, and they are accustomed to being driven all the time. And this is where things go wrong and the dropout rates increase. So that is the real cost. It's in people and the health of our people. And that is what we want to see brought to an end. We know that there are still things to be done. We know that because of the deficits we have, there will be additional classes. We know that. But it can't be to the same extent. So we are pleased that people have given up time voluntarily. We are pleased that there is the sense of let us do it together for our children. But even that has its price and it has its limitations.
And Basil, as you speak of mental health of teachers, I can't help but also wonder about the mental health of the students as well, but particularly those who either didn't make it or didn't do as well as they thought they would. This is a very dark time for them. What message does Naptosa have for such students who may not have made it?
This is an extremely important one, Marcel. Just remembering that there's a large cohort of children that are not academically inclined. So them failing is actually not them not being able to. It is that they are in the wrong place and they should have had a different type of curriculum. We must remember that, and they need to remember that. And they have got to know that there is a second chance. Not everybody needs to get through the first time. And sometimes the second time is a much better time around. And we are saying to them, this is a hiccup. It's a speed bump. It is not the end of everything. So pick yourself up, go back, sign up for the second chance, and you will get support. And I am the first to say we believe that there should be more support, but you will get support and you will get through it. Whatever you do, don't see this as an end. See this as a challenge for another beginning.
Nomusa, do you also think when we have this discussion about students who may have not performed as well as they had hoped they would, as much as they wanted to make themselves proud, make their schools proud, their families proud, that we also need to be talking to the students' families, to their parents, because while Basil is saying, look, the second chance is there, pick yourself up. You could be sitting in your bedroom right now and listening to your parents who are saying, you have failed us. So should parents also not be getting these talks as well to say, if this does happen and your child does not do as well as you would like them to do, this is how you better take care of their mental health?
Yes, what you are saying is indeed true. The pressure comes mainly from those who are around these learners, especially family. Yes, yes, the learners do feel the pressure, but the pressure comes from thinking what the family, what friends, what the community would say. We would appeal to families to give support to the learners, not to be judgmental, but to know that, to make their children feel that they have another chance. This is part of life. Life is about failures and winning. So if you have failed, it doesn't mean that it's the end. So we would appeal to parents to really, and families, and even churches, even all the social structures and communities, really to look at failure in another way, to look at failure as a chance to make things right, not as an end to one's life.
Basil, are you finding that there is a slight shift? While our education system, earlier you pointed, is now settling down, do you find that there is a slight shift when it comes to the pressure that not only families but also society puts on the class or that matriculant group? You know, there's always this big fanfare and hoo-ha about going and getting you're seeing your name in the newspaper and going through all of that, and sometimes your name doesn't make the list. Are we as a society getting better at accepting failure, at saying it's not the end of the road, or are we still at that point where there's still so much pressure, and if your name doesn't appear there, we know that suicide rates also go up at this kind of time?
I think the pressure is more than ever before. I honestly don't believe that even our system of how we manage the results, like tonight or today, assists necessarily in bringing down that temperature, bringing down that expectation and the size of the disappointment. Now, let me qualify by saying I know it's a high-stakes exam. I know that it's one of your primary qualifications that opens doors. We acknowledge that. However, we do have this pressure of competition between provinces, between districts and everything, and everybody gets hyped up with it. So much so that we've complained in the past that it was obvious that there have been retention of learners because they might fail in matric, so that we don't have bad results in a school, etc. Now, all those things add to the pressure that the child is under. Nomusa put it so beautifully. It is not the child only. It's everybody around the child that applies this pressure. And we are not winning as we should. I think there comes a time when we need to start muting this. The competition mustn't be an unhealthy one. And whilst we want to acknowledge those who do well, we must also show people that learning is a lifelong exercise, and getting to the end of a road is a lifelong exercise. It doesn't stop with a speed bump in the road.
How would you then say, Basil, we balance that? How do we then, celebrate those who have done well, who have achieved the distinctions, who have, who really rightfully deserve that credit that is due to them? We see them being, on news channels, we see them on newspapers, and they are celebrated as they should be. But as that's happening, we also have a group that's watching this that cannot even participate in that kind of thing. Do we say then, let's not celebrate those ones who have achieved very well so that we can make the others feel better? Or how do we actually balance it?
No, we can't not celebrate those who have done well. What we must do, however, is put more things in place where people see failure as another opportunity, where they don't see it as an end in the road. And up to now, we've been very good at doing the celebration, but we haven't been equally good at showing there's another opportunity. Look, it's a pity that this happened, but here's another way of achieving it. And I believe that with the change in the curriculum as we are planning now, with identifying other pathways to getting a matric, That will be part of what helps, because we'll be playing to the strength of the children. At the moment, we're overly academic, so it doesn't play to everybody's strengths, and that's where one of the biggest weaknesses lie.
Nomusa, from a Sadtu perspective, when you're looking at the sacrifices also that the teachers have been making as well, what role do they play in this time? Because we don't hear much about them. Right now, the focus is obviously the students, but what role do the teachers also play when it comes to those students who have not necessarily done so well?
As the students are having the pressure, teachers are also having the pressure too. From the districts, these results have the stakes are so high. It's like districts are competing, provinces are competing, schools are competing, and the teacher who's teaching the subject, as well as the principal of the school, is so much under the pressure that the school performs. It is like your life, the life of the school is now depending on the matric results. Yes, competition is good, but we feel that it is negatively affecting the quality of education. Now it's like teaching, that you teach for the child to develop those skills and be a critical thinker, and know that even if they fail, it's still okay. They can go back. But because of the pressure that is put on teachers, on principals and districts and whoever is involved in education, it is becoming too much for everyone involved. And then if teachers are having that pressure, they are also likely to put that pressure on learners. Learners get the pressure from the teachers and from the parents, from the community, from all sides. And we are saying this pressure should go down, because at the end, the quality education will suffer, in that we are going to push these children, we are going to cuddle them to make sure that they pass. And when they go to tertiary institutions, they do not make it, because they are so used to being fed or being taught to pass, rather than taught to understand and be critical thinkers, and then they can be able to handle tertiary institutions better.
Nomusa, how do you think then we can have healthy competition? Because as you mentioned, the districts are competing, the provinces are competing, the principals are competing, the schools are competing, the students are competing, but it doesn't seem to be a healthy kind of competition.
As years go by, the competition is becoming unhealthy. But as long as one sees that really we are gradually getting like a higher percent, like this year we had this 82.9, last year it was 80, and if you go back like 10 years ago, the pass rate was at 60. So one would say it means it is working. But in the long run, we can say that in the long run, someone is going to break down.
Basil, what are your thoughts and sentiments on this? Because it does sound like, at this trajectory, we aren't actually educating students for the right reasons, but also just to tick the boxes to increase the numbers for these kinds of moments where we can have this fanfare and say this particular school has produced this kind of result, or this province has outshone another province. Should we be celebrating one province over the other?
And that's where we have questioned time and time again the so-called league table, and whether that type of competition is really helpful. But it also goes to our academics, because the very department is under pressure. Because as soon as there's a little blip, every academic is running, and we are criticizing everything about schooling, and the teachers get a drubbing, and everybody gets a drubbing for whatever happens. So it is reinforced through various layers of society, whether it's from the universities, whether it's from parents, whether it's from the teachers themselves. So it is not one a thing that can be solved very easily, but we can bring down the pressure. We can mute it a little bit by doing away with certain things like the league table, like the fanfare around which province is the best and which district is the best, etc. It is important to note that these are the percentage achievements, and it's also important to note which children are doing well, because we want to encourage children to be the best. The world is about who is achieving the most. But we've got to look at those unhealthy elements. To simply say these are the 5 things that will change it, it's not that simple. But what I do know is being overly competitive can be destructive. Think for 1 minute about children being put in a school that is not designed as a hostel. They're sleeping over, they're waking up early, they're eating, drinking, sleeping in a school. That can't be healthy under no circumstances. And this is the type of thing where competition moves from being something to encourage to something that can be destructive.
And speaking of competition being destructive, Basil, in your statement from Naptosa, you also mentioned the concerns about the cases of cheating within the examination process as well as the fake matric certificates. Do you think this is also stemming off this unhealthy competitive environment? And what are these concerns of these cases of cheating?
In all my years as a teacher, I've always believed that no child will cheat unless they are so pressurized and so fearful of failure that they will grasp at any straw. So yes, I'm agreeing that this is a symptom of the pressure that our children are under, the desperation to get results. And whilst not condoning it and not using that as an excuse, because education is about integrity as well, and building integrity. What makes it worse is also that we've had group copying where teachers have been involved and adults have been involved. So these are the type of things we're saying are symptomatic of the bad element. And we've got to sort that out where people don't get desperate enough to try the ridiculous.
And I mean, as Nomusa pointed out quite frankly there, to talk about that competition between the districts, between the schools, between the teachers, and of course that then trickles down to the learners as well. But Basil, if we look at our National Senior Certificate, what are the practical job market options out there for somebody who cannot make it into a higher learning institution because they didn't achieve those results, but they would like to enter the job market? How valuable is this National Senior Certificate in itself?
Let me put it in a different way. If you don't have it, can you get a job as easy as one who does have the certificate? And that is where the difference lies. It certainly is a key factor in getting a job or going into further study. Now, we know the vast majority of our children don't go into further study, yet they get employed and they get good jobs, depending on the subjects that they've done as well. And we've seen that the access, first point of access, is having that piece of paper. So I don't want to try and minimize how important the certificate is. We've seen children who just didn't make it, and they give up hope and they don't try immediately again, which is something that I want to emphasize. Do it immediately whilst the work is still fresh so that you can get it. If they don't do that, they battle to access jobs that take them further.
So they are better off with that senior certificate
Absolutely.
than somebody who may have dropped out. And what kinds of jobs are these that they could be looking into?
You know, Masa, when we look at the world as it stands today in South Africa, there are thousands of jobs that require people, and these are, funny enough, the jobs that also create other jobs. Jobs in construction, jobs in our factories where people learn mechanical things, not just packing, etc., but where they are trained in mechanics. people that are trained in various skill-based things, because these are the learners that very often have missed because they've been stuck in a route of academia. Now they have the opportunity for skill-based work, and they very often are the people that are building our homes. They're the people that are fixing things that are broken. They are making the very furniture we are sitting on, and they are using machinery to do so too. So there are plenty jobs out there for many, many people who have not gone to a tertiary institution.
Nomusa, just coming back to you, when we're looking at this issue of cheating that Basil has also spoken of, how big of a concern is cheating and the fake matric certificates for Sadtu?
We are indeed worried about these reports of cheating because it affects the integrity of that matric certificate. But one can say that the pressure that is brought on to have these matric passes may have an impact it can make people to resort to such things as cheating. So we would appeal that because what was found is the instances of group cheating. Group cheating would involve an invigilator, perhaps, or even a teacher teaching that subject. So it's not only the learner. We don't think it's not only the learners that would be involved. Adults who are invigilating, or even perhaps teachers, would be involved. So would like this instances to be speedily dealt with. Because at the moment, those learners who have been cheating, their results will be withheld, their lives will be at a standstill, and before the investigation dealt with speedily, so that the lives of these learners can go on. We are against cheating in any form. And we say those responsible should be brought to book. May it be teachers, may it be invigilators, they should be brought to book.
And I guess it goes And I guess it goes to your point, Nomusa, about this unhealthy competitive environment. If we can eliminate that, then we won't have these kinds of, side effects of people feeling the pressure, including teachers, because you would think that the teachers would be the ones to stop the students. But if they are also competing too, and the schools are also competing too, it then creates a very nasty cycle. But Basil, before I let you both go, we have to talk about the matter of resources and underfunding. It is the sore thorn. We all know this as well. I mean, we've got cases of schools in the Eastern Cape and Limpopo where children are drowning in feces. We have pit latrine toilets of just under 4,000 countrywide. There's over 16,000 learners, schools without just the basic laboratory to be able to work in as well. And I know we touched on this too, but if we're still having almost 4,000 pit latrines, we've got children who are walking to school without a bridge, going through rivers, being, having to be held by their parents, some of them, because they're that young, taking parents away from jobs as well that they should be doing. I mean, where are we going to eventually get it that we need more money? There needs to be more funding. There needs to be more resources put into this.
Masa, this is a blight on our democracy. It's a blight on the ability of our people to look after and ensure that our children go to school in dignity. And it is about an issue of dignity. When we see that a province doesn't use its infrastructure budget fully, like the Northwest, that's returned money, and yet they too have pit latrines, it's sad. It's a crying shame. And we have no sympathy, and we don't want to hear the excuses because we've had sufficient time. But you are absolutely right. Now we are in a crunch because there is a financial crunch in the country, and what will suffer is the building program, is the infrastructure program, is the replacement of bad facilities, or the building of additional facilities. And this is now the price we pay for the time we've lost. But it is also about the things that are happening in society at large, where we have people demanding to be paid because they want their slice of a contract and so on, the so-called construction mafia. These are all factors that are in fact limiting how quickly we do build new classrooms and how quickly we replace things. But, Masa, we can't continue making excuses. We can't continue saying, oh, this has been a long haul. Oh, we are better off than we were 20, 30 years ago. Yes, we know, but that's what we worked for. So let's get it done now. We cannot accept any excuses any longer.
Absolutely agreed with you. And thank you to you both so much for joining us this evening and for your insights. Good luck to you both for the rest of the year. That was Naptosa's Basil Manuel and Sadtu's Nomusa Cembi joining us, talking to us off the back of those matric results.